Hello. Have you heard of interactive programming? In the Lisp sense, it means that we program in a conversation with the application being developed as it is running. I'm going to quickly demonstrate that here with a VS Code extension of mine called paste replace. It's developed with the ClojureScript, which means we can use interactive programming. This is the activate function of the extension, which is running in the extension development host. Note that we are not using the debugger here. Let me first give you some context by explaining what the extension is supposed to do. Paste replace solves the problem of us wanting to paste what's on the clipboard, but with a few replacements, modifications. Here I have some text with string quotes. Pasting it inside the string here will not work in most languages. The string quotes needs to be escaped or quoted, if you like. In some languages, the new lines will be problematic as well. Paste replace to the rescue. It lets us define replacers in the form of regular expressions, which will be applied to the clipboard content when it is pasted. You can do this either via settings or as arguments when defining keyboard shortcuts. I'm using settings here. These are the replacements. We quote the string quotes, escape the new lines, squash consecutive white space. My settings here also define some other replaces. They will all show up in the paste replace menu when we use the command paste replaced. We choose quote strings and squash white space. That's better, right? I have also defined the keyboard shortcuts since I use this particular replacer often. I bound it to Ctrl-Alt-V-Q or Ctrl-Option-V-Q, whatever you call that key. To keep things dry, I'm reusing the settings defined for this. Now let's go back to the code for this extension. Here we can inspect the running paste replace extension. We can, for instance, check what's first in the workspace folder. Again, I'm not using the debugger here. The application is still running. What if we want to modify the extension? Can we do that while it's running? Yes, we can. Let me do what I often do, introduce a bug in it. Duplicating this command registration will mess up the activation function, because registering an already registered command ID will throw an error. When I save this file, my development tooling will recompile the application and update the changed part. I've also configured it to reactivate the application, which will crash. Reactivate, not restart. It crashes. The extension is still running here, even if it might be in a weird state. Now, let's remove the bug we introduced and save it again. Now the extension reactivates without restarting, mind you. Now let's change the actual behavior of paste replace without restarting it. The product owner is a bit funny. He wants all replacements to be inserted with the string foo prepended. We are going to comply. It is his product. This is the function being called by the command. It has two signatures, one without the replacer provided and one with the replacer provided. The 0 arity signature will call the 1 arity one with a nil value for the provided replacer. This will be handled downstream to do the right thing with that nil. Let's inspect the app and see which signature is used. I'm here capturing the local variable to the namespace so that I can reach it for inspection. Now I can reevaluate this function definition. This will recompile it and install the new version in the running application. It does the same thing as the old version, just giving us the development access to this argument that it was called with. Let's use the command that brings up the replacer menu and see. So we didn't know which replacer in this case and show the menu. This called the zero arity version of the function, and then the one arity with the replacer argument nil. Now let's try the keyboard shortcut definition. It should call this function with the name of the quote and squash replacer config. And it does. Now, what was that weird requirement again? Yes, prepend with foo. We need to find where the replacement is happening. Let's check this function that is called here when we have the replacer. Wait, let's first see what we are actually sending it. The provided replacer was a string, but what is replacer? Modifying this function again so that the running extension can tell us. And we need to use the shortcut again. Let's check. It's an object with the name and the replacers from the setting we referenced. Cool. Let's remove this inline definition as the linter is telling us to do. Now, let's dive into this function. It gets the replacer as the argument, then picks out some replacers. I should probably rethink the naming here. Here we save the current content of the clipboard so that we can restore it later. Here we reduce the new text from the original text, applying replacers. So it's probably the right place to implement the requirement. I use the still function for this, which returns the concatenation of its arguments. Prepend replace the text with foo. I reevaluate this function again, modifying the paste replace extension as it is running. And now it should behave in this new weird way. Indeed, here it is. But too weird. Better remove this and have a talk with the PO instead. Yeah, and that concludes our demo. This was a tiny taste of what interactive programming can bring to your table. Note that I didn't restart the extension at any time, and it was not stopped and caught in the debugger. Not even after I had modified the extension did I restart it. The extension was inspected and modified as it was running. This is the key. This is what we refer to as interactive programming. We have a conversation with the application we are developing, asking it how it's feeling right now, asking it to behave in new ways. When I started with paste replace, it didn't do anything at all. I have been talking to it. If you found this interesting, but also found that it was hard to follow the ClojureScript code here, you might want to check out the Get Started with Clojure guide in Calva. Calva is another VS Code extension of mine. It is a Clojure IDE, which I was using for the demo. Thank you.